What if Hollywood's golden age wasn't all sparkle and sophistication, but just glamour held together with secrets? Picture Marilyn Monroe covering up childhood pain behind that breathy voice, or Rock Hudson pretending to be married just to keep his career alive. These weren't just celebrities, they were studio-manufactured fantasies wrapped in scandals juicier than any gossip site today. Get ready, because we're pulling back the curtain, and trust me, it's messier than any celebrity breakup you've seen. But before starting this video, please subscribe to the channel and like it. This will help develop the channel. 1. Bobby Darin. Bobby Darin had the confidence, the talent, and that Brooklyn energy that said, "I own this." He gave us hits like Splish Splash and Mac the Knife, a teenage heartthrob living on borrowed time. Doctors warned he wouldn't make it past 30, so he hustled hard, dominated the music scene, married Sandra Dee, and commanded every stage he stepped onto. Then reality hit harder than any song lyric. At 32 years old, Bobby discovered his sister was actually his birth mother, and his mom, she was really his grandmother. His whole existence suddenly felt like a daytime talk show reveal. His biological mother, Nina, was only 17 when she had him. Following classic 1930s protocol, the family rearranged the truth like living room furniture. Bobby spent years looking up to Polly, the woman he believed was his mother, only to learn she was his grandmother playing make-believe. This revelation destroyed him emotionally. Already living past his predicted timeline because of a childhood heart issue, Bobby went into a full identity crisis. He abandoned his polished image, relocated to Big Sur, grew facial hair as an emotional coping strategy, and transformed into a folk singer philosopher. He passed away at 37, 7 years beyond what doctors predicted, still trying to figure out his true identity. 2. Raymond Burr. On television, Raymond Burr played Perry Mason, the unshakable lawyer who could solve any case. Behind the scenes, he was creating a backstory so dramatic that soap operas would have said, maybe tone that down a bit. See? Burr faced a challenge. He was a gay man in 1950s Hollywood, where being open about it could end your career faster than a box office flop. So he got inventive. He told journalists he had a wife named Annette, who tragically passed away in a plane accident, plus a son who also left this world due to leukemia. The catch? Neither of them ever existed, not even slightly. This wasn't just a small lie. It was an award-worthy performance. Burr gave detailed interviews with specific memories about this imaginary family, their wedding date, his son's favorite toys, the heartbreak. All fabricated. Hollywood's ultimate improvisation. Meanwhile, in actual life, Burr was living peacefully on a vineyard with his partner of 35 years, Robert Benavides. Their relationship was genuine, loving, and completely hidden from public view. When people asked personal questions, Burr would shut it down like a courtroom objection. I don't discuss that. But here's the beautiful part. While inventing a fictional son, Burr became a real-life champion to hundreds of foster children. He donated quietly, covered medical procedures, paid tuition costs, and changed lives nobody else noticed. 3. Marilyn Monroe. Before becoming Marilyn Monroe, she was Norma Jean, just another foster child with dreams and a speech impediment. She moved through 11 different homes by age 16, perfected looking adorable to avoid getting returned, and even married the neighborhood boy just to escape going to an orphanage. That breathy voice everyone found attractive? It wasn't calculated seduction, it was childhood pain dressed in high heels. Hollywood transformed her into the ultimate bombshell, but internally she remained that frightened little girl, worried everyone would abandon her. And unfortunately, they usually did. Marilyn accumulated heartbreaks like awards 3 failed marriages, relationships with presidents, and nightly panic calls to friends just to avoid loneliness. Behind the glamour, she was self-medicating with prescriptions, alcohol, and attention from the most powerful men on the planet. It was less a romantic life and more a cry for help wearing red lipstick. By 36 years old, the world's most famous woman was found alone, having taken too much medication, still searching for someone who would stay. Marilyn's story isn't just sad, it's the blueprint for how Hollywood constructs icons from suffering, then forgets to support them when they collapse. 4. Clark Gable and Loretta Young. Picture this, 1935. Clark Gable, the king of Hollywood, is filming The Call of the Wild. Off camera, he and co-star Loretta Young are creating, well, more than just movie scenes. One unexpected pregnancy later, Loretta vanishes from the public eye, delivers a baby secretly, places her in an orphanage, then heroically adopts her own child. Hollywood magic at its finest. Enter Judy Lewis, the baby who grew up wondering why she looked suspiciously like Rhett Butler. Gable never acknowledged her existence. Young denied everything until Judy was an adult, and basically detective worked the truth out of her. The reason for the cover-up? Loretta was Catholic, unmarried, and under studio contract. Three things you absolutely did not combine with motherhood in 1930s Hollywood. The scandal got buried deeper than you can imagine. Even Judy's ears had to be surgically altered as a child to hide her resemblance to Gable. Yes, seriously. Decades later, Judy transformed her pain into purpose, becoming an actress and advocate, while Loretta finally admitted the truth, overwhelmed with guilt but relieved. As for Clark, he strutted off into legend, never saying a single word. 5. Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson thought he had a reasonably normal childhood, well, as normal as it gets in New Jersey with theatrical flair. Raised by a loving mother named Ethel and a cool older sister named June, Jack grew up rebellious, charming, and destined for stardom. But at 37 years old, a Time magazine reporter casually dropped the bombshell. "Hey Jack, did you know your sister is actually your mother?" Plot twist of the century. Turns out June got pregnant at 17. And in a masterclass of 1930s scandal prevention, the family decided to raise baby Jack as her brother, not her son. Grandma Ethel played the mother role so convincingly that even Jack didn't suspect anything. And by the time the truth emerged, both women had already passed away, leaving Jack to process one of the biggest "wait, what" moments in Hollywood family history. The wildest part? Jack handled it like a champion. No public breakdowns, no tabloid drama, just deep reflection and a few of those iconic smirks. 6. Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy, the screen legend with features made for black and white cinema and a moral compass that pointed straight toward inner conflict. Audiences loved him as the good guy, the priest, the all-American father figure. But behind the scenes, let's just say Tracy's personal life was a 26-year balancing act between wrongdoing, guilt, and two women who never caused public drama. He married Louise Treadwell in 1923. They had a deaf son, which Spencer interpreted as divine punishment for something, and promptly started spiraling into alcohol dependency and Catholic guilt. Getting separated? Not an option. He was a good Catholic, remember? But having an affair? Apparently acceptable if it came with enough shame. Enter Katharine Hepburn, the ultimate other woman who never pressured him, never married him, and never once made it public. For over 2 decades, she was his ride or die from a respectful distance. Tracy lived with Hepburn, loved her deeply, and kept Louise officially on record. Publicly, he was a family man. Privately, he was a romantic triangle wrapped in alcohol. But here's the twist. While Spencer was guilt-tripping through existence, Louise was changing the world. She founded the John Tracy Clinic for Deaf Children, an institution that still helps thousands today. And Hepburn quietly supported her too. 7. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was the ultimate Hollywood queen, eyebrows sharp enough to slice through anything, gowns tighter than studio contracts, and a work ethic that intimidated even her co-stars. But beneath those perfectly arranged family photographs was a maternal situation ready to explode. To the public, she was supermom adopting 4 children, responding to fan mail with lipstick kisses, and running her home like a movie studio. But behind closed doors, her daughter Christina told a drastically different story, complete with physical discipline, alcohol-fueled outbursts, and that infamous line, "No wire hangers." In her memoir, Mommy Dearest, Christina portrayed Joan as a control enthusiast in designer clothes, more villain than caretaker. Crawford's younger children denied the mistreatment, but by then the damage to her image was done. America's favorite movie mom became the symbol of household horror. And just when it couldn't get more complicated, entered Georgia Tann, the questionable baby broker who helped Joan adopt 2 of her kids. Let's just say the paperwork wasn't exactly ethical, but here's the contradiction. Joan was also incredibly generous. She paid hospital bills for strangers, mentored struggling performers, and showed up to set with her lines memorized and everyone else's too. 8. Bing Crosby. To the world, Bing Crosby was Mr. Christmas, the smooth voice behind White Christmas, the priest with charm, the dad everyone wished they had. But according to his actual sons, try father knows best with physical punishment. Gary Crosby, Bing's oldest, dropped the holiday cheer in his memoir, Going My Own Way, claiming dad was more strict disciplinarian than crooner. Weekly weight checks, emotional distance, and occasional physical correction if you didn't hit the right note. Two brothers supported his account. One even took his own life. Talk about awkward silence under the mistletoe. But wait, the sequel has a twist. Bing's second family, with a much younger wife, painted a completely different picture. He was warm, affectionate, present at school activities and parent-teacher meetings. Either Bing took a serious parenting course between marriages or somebody's not telling the complete story. So which Bing is real? The pipe-smoking, golf-loving TV dad, or the off-key disciplinarian? Maybe both. Maybe fame, pressure, and personal struggles split him down the middle. 9. Merle Oberon. Merle Oberon lit up the screen in Wuthering Heights with her regal beauty and exotic charm. Hollywood claimed she came from aristocratic roots in Tasmania, sophisticated, mysterious, very British. But here's the twist. Merle was actually born in Bombay, India, to a 14-year-old mother of mixed heritage. Surprise! The truth was too controversial for 1930s Hollywood, so the studio executed a cover-up worthy of spy agencies. They rewrote her origin story, relocated her birthplace to Tasmania bonus. Local records were destroyed in a fire, how convenient, and promoted her as royalty in heels. Her own mother was publicly rebranded as her servant, her actual identity buried under layers of makeup, studio manipulation, and fear. Merle spent years avoiding cameras, questions, and any sunlight that might reveal her complexion. Even her husband didn't know the truth. To maintain the illusion, she endured painful light treatments to appear lighter-skinned and refused to return to Australia just in case someone shouted, "You're not from here, love." 70-20. But beneath the deception was a generous, deeply sensitive soul. She gave thousands to children's charities and quietly battled the loneliness of living a life that wasn't truly hers. 10. Rita Hayworth. Before she was Rita Hayworth, she was Margarita Carmen Cancino, a talented Spanish-American dancer with natural rhythm and a last name that made studio executives nervous. Hollywood looked at her and said, "Too ethnic." So, what did they do? Gave her a new name, dyed her dark hair auburn, and wait for it, burned her hairline back with electrolysis to make her appear less Latin. Yes, people, they literally erased her heritage, one hair follicle at a time. But the makeover wasn't just surface level. Behind the sultry smile of Gilda, Rita was hiding a secret far darker than her natural hair. Childhood mistreatment at the hands of her own father, who paraded her around as his dance partner since she was 12 years old. The world saw glamour. She remembered trauma. She once said, "Men go to bed with Gilda and wake up with me." A heartbreaking statement from someone forever trapped between who she was and who Hollywood told her to be. As if that weren't enough, fate served her one last cruel blow. Early onset memory loss. By her 40s, people assumed she was intoxicated or difficult. In reality, she was losing her memories, including the painful ones she never got to heal from. In her final years, she sometimes slipped back into Spanish, the one part of her real self that refused to stay hidden. Because no matter how hard Hollywood tried, the truth always finds a way to dance back into the spotlight. 11. Rock Hudson. In the 1950s, Rock Hudson wasn't just a movie star, he was the movie star. Tall, square-jawed, dreamy, the kind of man your mom swooned over and your dad secretly envied. But behind that all-American smile lived a secret big enough to shake Hollywood's carefully groomed foundation. Rock was gay. And in a town where being open could end your career faster than a bad haircut, that wasn't an option. So when rumors started circulating in 1955, his agent went full covert operation and arranged a fake marriage to his secretary, Phyllis Gates. Voila! America's Bachelor King became a husband overnight. Paparazzi snapped photos, fans swooned, and the truth stayed buried at least for a while. The marriage lasted 3 years. The public image lasted much longer. Meanwhile, Rock lived a double life. Romantic comedy lead by day, closeted man by night. He dated men secretly, dodged tabloids like obstacles, and kept up the performance with the precision of a method actor. But then came 1985. Rock Hudson became the first major celebrity to publicly announce he had AIDS. In that moment, the Hollywood illusion shattered, and something real, raw, and incredibly courageous took its place. 12. Clara Bow. Clara Bow was the Roaring Twenties personified. Flapper dresses, finger waves, and enough appeal to short-circuit every silent film projector in town. She wasn't just a star, she was the star. But off-screen, Clara's life was less Great Gatsby and more trauma wrapped in sequins. Born in a Brooklyn tenement in 1905, Clara grew up surrounded by chaos. Her mom, dealing with mental health issues, once tried to harm her while she slept. Her dad? Let's just say mistreatment doesn't even scratch the surface. She escaped poverty by winning a beauty contest, and Hollywood snapped her up faster than you can say silent siren. But studios weren't interested in her pain, just her pout. They rewrote her backstory, applied makeup, and sold her as the carefree party girl with it. Behind the scenes, Clara was battling post-traumatic stress, insomnia, and crushing anxiety. Fame made it worse. Tabloids obsessed over her romantic life, painting her as wild and promiscuous when really she was just trying to survive. By 28 years old, she'd had enough. She walked away from fame, retired to Nevada, and lived quietly, far from the cameras that once adored her. 13. Lon Chaney wasn't just a silent film legend, he was silence. Best known for haunting classics like The Phantom of the Opera and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Chaney could twist his face and body into anything. But his true superpower? Speaking volumes without saying a word. Why? Because both his parents were deaf. Born in 1883, Lon grew up in a household where sign language was the primary communication. He learned early how to communicate with his eyes, his hands, his entire body. Basically, mime wasn't a performance, it was a lifestyle. While other kids were learning to talk, Lon was learning to speak through movement, and he used that skill to terrify and mesmerize audiences worldwide. But here's the part that'll touch your heart. Chaney never exploited this origin story. In an era when disabilities were whispered about or hidden, he protected his parents fiercely. Even his first wife didn't know they were deaf until she met them. Surprise! His empathy for outsiders, the misunderstood, the monstrous, the lonely wasn't an act. He'd lived it. Off-screen, he supported his parents, stayed humble, and never gave interviews. Because why talk when you can let your work speak volumes? 14. Tierney. Jean Tierney was the kind of star who didn't just light up the screen, she hypnotized it. Sultry, elegant, untouchable. But behind her flawless appearance was a real-life plot twist so tragic even mystery writers couldn't have crafted it better. Actually, one did more on that in a moment. In 1943, Jean was pregnant and doing what Hollywood stars do, shaking hands at war bond events. One fan, desperate for an autograph, broke quarantine from a rubella outbreak just to meet her. Sweet gesture, sure. Devastating? Absolutely. The result: Jean's daughter, Daria, was born blind, deaf, and severely disabled. Jean was shattered. The fan later bragged about the encounter, not knowing she'd basically rewritten Jean's life into a Greek tragedy. Unable to cope, Jean placed Daria in a private institution, a decision kept secret while she posed on red carpets, perfectly composed, but inside, she was falling apart. Mental health crises, electroshock therapy, memory loss. It got so bad she forgot entire years of her life, including moments with her healthy second daughter. Oh, and that Agatha Christie novel, The Mirror Cracked? It was inspired by her story. So yes, Jean Tierney is literally the face of fictionalized emotional devastation. 15. Barbara Stanwyck. Barbara Stanwyck was Hollywood's ultimate steel magnolia. Sharp, classy, and ready to slap a man across the face and win an Oscar while doing it. But behind the fierce femme fatale persona was one role she never quite mastered. In 1932, she and actor Frank Fay adopted a baby boy named Dion, hoping a little bundle of joy might fix their train wreck of a marriage. Spoiler, it didn't. Frank drank. Barbara worked. And after their separation, she raised Dion solo while juggling a blazing hot career. She gave him everything: top tutors, nannies, The best Hollywood could buy, except maybe warmth. Turns out Stanwyck's version of love was more contract negotiation than cuddle session. By the time Dion hit his teens, things got frosty fast. The older he got, the more distant she became. In her later years, when asked about him, Barbara coolly said, "I have no son." Ouch. That's not a burn, it's an emotional flamethrower. Rumor has it Dion had his own struggles, substance issues, brushes with law enforcement, but nobody's really sure. Barbara kept her private life under tighter security than Fort Knox. When she passed, Dion received $5,000 in her will. Translation: the legal minimum to prevent him from taking legal action. 16. Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis made the world laugh for decades. Rubber-faced, loud, outrageous, and somehow always tripping over invisible furniture. He raised billions for children through his legendary telethons. But one kid he never raised? His own, maybe. Enter Susan Minaret, a woman who spent her life saying, "Hi, I think Jerry Lewis is my father." While Lewis spent his life replying, "Never heard of her." According to Susan, her mother had a years-long affair with Lewis in the 1950s. 9 months later, ta-da, Susan. Did Jerry ever meet her? Nope. Take a paternity test? Nah. Return her letters? Also no. In fact, he went full ghost before ghosting was even a thing. In 2009, a DNA test showed an 88.7% chance that Lewis was indeed her father. That's not maybe, that's get him a mug that says world's most reluctant dad. Oh, and as if the irony wasn't complete, while Jerry raised money for sick kids on television, Susan, his alleged daughter, lived in poverty and battled Crohn's disease. And when Jerry passed away, he left millions to everyone except her and his 6 sons from his first marriage, also cut out. Clearly, Jerry loved drama as much off-screen as he did on it. 17. Charlie Chaplin made the world laugh without saying a word. The tramp with the cane, the mustache, and the heart. But off-screen, let's just say he had a thing for younger women. And by younger, we mean barely out of high school. In 1924, at 35 years old, Chaplin fell for 16-year-old Lita Gray during filming of The Gold Rush. When she got pregnant, he didn't rush to the altar, he rushed to Mexico, where laws were looser and scandals could be quietly sealed with a wedding ring. But the marriage? Total disaster. Lita gave birth to 2 sons, while Chaplin allegedly had affairs, criticized constantly, and emotionally steamrolled her. Their eventual separation was a tabloid goldmine. Lita's 50-page complaint read like a soap opera written by someone with a grudge and a typewriter. Chaplin had a history. Multiple relationships with teenage girls, each swept under the rug with studio pressure and PR spin. But while the headlines screamed scandal, audiences kept showing up for his movies. Here's the twist. The man accused of exploiting young women created films filled with deep empathy for the poor, the powerless, the voiceless. 18. Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman was the ultimate good girl, luminous, wholesome, practically glowing with virtue. After Casablanca and The Bells of Street, Mary's, America saw her as the poster woman for class and moral purity. So when she dared to have gasp a personal life, the nation lost its collective mind. In 1949, while married, Ingrid flew to Italy to work with neo-realist director Roberto Rossellini. They fell in love, made the film Stromboli, and plot twist, she got pregnant. Before the film even hit theaters, Ingrid was starring in a real-life scandal. The backlash was so intense the United States Senate literally denounced her. Yes, the Senate, as in actual politicians, stopped what they were doing to scold Ingrid for having an affair. Suddenly, she went from America's sweetheart to Hollywood's outcast. Her movies were banned. Churches boycotted her. Fans wrote hate mail. Meanwhile, Rossellini shrugged in Italian, but Ingrid wasn't hiding. She married Rossellini, had 3 kids, including future actress Isabella Rossellini, and made some of the most artistically bold films of her career. Far from the judgmental glare of Tinseltown. 7 years later, she returned to Hollywood with Anastasia and won an Oscar. Because if there's one thing Hollywood loves more than a scandal, it's a comeback. Which of these stories resonated with you the most? If you found value in this tribute, please share your thoughts. It helps keep the memory of these stars alive. Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe and like it. It really helps with channel promotion.